All right, 187. 3 reported cases of Kundalini. Artist, female, 48 years old. She started transcendental meditation and after about 5 years began to experience occasional tinglings in her arms and heat in her hands. She did not sleep for days with energy surging through her whole body and had several dreams of having her consciousness separated from her body. A continuous loud sound had appeared inside her head. Soon there were cramps in her big toes followed by vibratory feelings in her legs. Overnight her big toenails darkened as if hit by a hammer and eventually partially separated from the flesh. The tissues in her legs felt torn through by vibratory sensations. These vibrations spread to her lower back and swept over her body from lower back up to her head, forming a sensation of a band around the head just above the eyebrows. Then her head started to move spontaneously. Later, her body moved sinuously, and her tongue pressed to the roof of her mouth, and she sensed a strong sound of Om there. The tingling spread back to her neck and head, over the head to her forehead and face. Both nostrils were stimulated, causing the feeling of elongation of the nose. The tinglings then spread down her face. At times, her eyes seemed to move separately, and the pupils felt like holes that bored into her head and met in the center. Then she felt a tremendous head pressure and a brilliant light, followed by bliss and laughter. The tingling spread farther down to her upper lip, chin, and mouth. About this time, there were dreams of heavenly music. Then the sensations went to her throat, chest, and abdomen, and eventually she felt as if there were a closing of the circuit in the shape of an egg, up through the spine, down through the front of the body. As it developed, the circuit activated particular chakras on its way, starting in the lower abdomen, then navel, the solar plexus, the heart, then the head centers. The last to be activated was the throat. After that, there was a continuous feeling of energy pouring into the body through the navel area. This feeling stopped after the circuit was completed. The whole experience had strong sexual overtones. The greater part of this activity occurred over several months. In the last 2 years, there has been only occasional activity, mostly during meditation or when she is relaxed in bed. During the experiences, there was spontaneous yogic breathing, faint and controlled. Eventually, there developed head pressures which centered around the back of the head, the top, and the forehead. They affected the eyes, and the vision had deteriorated. The pressures would become especially severe during reading, resulting in pressures in the eyes and a pulsing sensation at the top of the head. The loud sound inside the head had eventually disappeared. Throughout the experience, she understood that she was undergoing the rising of Kundalini because she had read about it before. Therefore, she felt relaxed about it and just allowed things to happen. However, the situation developed into an emotional disorientation and a difficulty in integrating these experiences with the daily activities. Since the inflow of energy prevented normal sleep for months and continued during the day as well, work became inefficient and she felt as if she were completely detached and was witnessing her own activities. Eventually, she brought the situation under control. The general effect was a greater emotional stability and elimination of tension, along with a greatly enhanced intuitive insight. Scientist, male, 53 years old. He started transcendental meditation and within 5 years began to have gross thrashing body movements during meditation and at night in bed. After a few weeks, these subsided. Months later, on going to bed, he felt tingling in his lower legs followed by cramping in his big toes. The cramping extended to other muscles and gradually faded. The tingling rose to his lower back, and he saw a reddish light there. The light became like a rod, which he felt and saw being pushed up his spine. Then it extended forward to the umbilical area with many tingling, vibrating sensations. Step by step, it proceeded in the spine to the level of his heart and then extended forward to stimulate the cardiac plexus before continuing upward. When it reached his head, he saw floods of white light as if his skull were lit up from inside. Then the light seemed to spout out the top of his head as a solid beam. Sometime later, he felt a vibration in his right wrist, arm, and also in his left leg. As soon as he attended to these sensations, they disappeared. And came a feeling of currents running through his shoulders and arms as waves of current occurring at 3 or 4 per second, later increasing to 7 or more per second. At one time, when he focused on the center of his head, violent, uncontrollable spasms and convulsions came on. At various times during all of this activity, he was aware of sounds in his head, mostly of high-pitched whistling and hissing. At other times, he heard flute-like musical tones. Very frequently, there were feelings of peace and bliss. His sleep began to be disturbed by automatic movements of his body. Sometimes he would awaken to find himself doing spontaneous yogic breathing and assuming various hatha yoga positions. After several nights of this, the tingling went to his forehead, nostrils, cheek, mouth, and chin. During this process, he had many ecstatic feelings and sexual stimulation when the activity centered in the pelvic area. Then all this ceased and returned from time to time when he relaxed at night in bed. He could shut these off by turning on his side. About a year later, pressures developed in his head at night and started moving downward. Simultaneously, a tingling sensation started moving up from the stomach. He saw this all happening to him as if from a distance. The two stimuli met at his throat. He felt as if a hole appeared in his throat at the point at which they met. From this hole, all manner of purely spontaneous sounds were emitted. He had little control over these. About 6 months later, the stimulus moved down from his throat to the abdomen, where it remained for a few months. Then they moved farther down into the pelvis. This scientist had an inherently sensitive nervous system, but his awareness that he was going through the rise of Kundalini and his knowledge of what to expect, together with the stabilizing effect of meditative discipline, made him less susceptible to the disorganizing aspects of Kundalini. He realized that the difficulties he did have were the result of overstrenuous meditative practice, so he developed no anxieties during the process. Artist, female, 53 years old. For years, she has practiced hatha yoga for exercise, but has never engaged in any type of meditation. 13 years ago, she developed lower back pain with foot drop and partial paralysis of the left leg, so that she was put in traction for several weeks. The paralysis lasted for several months, while the left toe was also anesthetized. She felt a sensation like ants crawling on the skin of her leg, with cramps and tingling on the outside and back of the leg to the back of the knee, thigh, and hip. These conditions lasted intermittently for long periods of time. Twice she experienced a blackening of her big toenail, which lasted for some time. Her back pain was diagnosed as sciatica and osteoporosis. The function of the legs gradually returned over the years since. In the last 3 or 4 years, she has experienced left hip pain, usually in the summer. X-ray shows nothing abnormal. For 2 years, there has been left hand weakness and heaviness with a dull pain. On occasion of having to give an important talk, she developed anxiety and severe pain between her shoulder blades. Then she could not talk or move and hardly could breathe. This subdued gradually and returned several times since. X-rays said to have shown spondylosis. For many, many years, since childhood, she had cramps and tingling of legs, migraine with scintillating scotoma, nausea, and left-sided headaches. In the last year or more, she developed loss of color vision and visual impairment in the left eye. Her intraocular tension is normal. The diagnosis is progressive degeneration of the optic nerve due to a mass, unspecified, in back of the eye orbit. Her mother had glaucoma. Cortisone has recently been advised for a thyroid disorder, also worse on the left side. She has some exophthalmos and optic atrophy. Recently, she took radioactive iodine for diagnostic purposes and 24 hours later saw almost clearly for 20 minutes. During her pregnancy, her sensitivity to sight, taste, and smell was much enhanced. In the interview with this person, it became clear that she has a highly developed nervous system. She was aware of the activity of her head chakra. The top of my head was open all the time, although she did not understand the meaning of it. She was aware of higher realities already as a child, but did not think that there was anything unusual about it and assumed that everybody else saw the way she did. They just don't talk about it. As a child, she was told by her parents, "Come down from the skies, come down to earth." Being engaged in Hatha Yoga for many years has stimulated and accelerated the activity of the chakras and is probably responsible for the rise of Kundalini. The results of a spontaneous Kundalini are clearly shown by her medical record. The symptoms started from the left toe, rising up the leg to the pelvis, the ensuing paralysis of the left leg, further rising up the spine into the neck, thyroid, and the head. The pressures in the head developed due to Kundalini caused degeneration of the optic nerve. And that is it.